So here we are, level 2, Colin Nathan. There's a lot of things.
Firstly, it's good to see you.
No, I was getting there. there. It's good to see you two in person again. Obviously, we did the online
Zoom interviews and all that kind of stuff.
That innovative stuff, and you've continued doing stuff on Instagram. Let's first, before we get into all the serious business and talking about signings and everything, online, what are you doing to keep active during these times?
So I just wanted to reach out to a few of my friends, a couple of my friends, one in New Jersey, Ryan Sanvalio, writes for Ring Magazine, and Cynthia Conte, she is part of Ring Magazine as well. She does a lot of stuff with Oscar and Golden Boy and Top Rank and so forth. So just kind of getting a feel of what was going on the other side of the pond, it was kind of depressing, just like listening to all the negativity here in South Africa. So I just thought, let me be a little different and see what was going on in the stateside, and there was also some negativity there, obviously, but it's just great to see how people are adapting and how they obviously looking forward to things progressing after COVID-19. But it's just good to kind of be back in the office and back in the gym, seeing you in great shape. Round is a shape. But just generally, it's just great. It's great seeing all the boxing guys and one or two new faces and some new surprises as well.
What was it like the first day you opened? Obviously, this is not the first day you opened up the gym, but the first day you opened up the gym and saw everybody, what was the feeling like?
It was kind of weird. It was like kind of weird getting back, and I was like, I forgot what the place looked like. But great to be in my man cave, great to be back in the office and in the gym. Guys are going through the paces. A couple of guys are still relatively in shape. A couple of guys kind of rolled in here, but I mean that was given. That's a given the fact that a lot of people were confined to being homebound and so forth in the early stages of COVID-19 and the national lockdown. But I'm looking forward to the future. Like I've always said that, and I've told you, and we've spoken about it on the show, is that during every crisis is an opportunity to build empires. And so I have been working, albeit behind my laptop and video calls and Zoom meetings. I'm so sick of Zoom meetings. But I've got some really good ideas coming through and one or two really solid plans. And some new announcements in the next few months coming up as well.
Before we get to the announcements, firstly, you got a fresh haircut. Who's been doing your hair?
So it's one of the skills I learned during lockdown. Couldn't get to a barber, too scared to go to a barber now, go through the whole Corona situation. And just went on YouTube tutorials, bought myself a clipper, a couple of clippers actually, and learned how to do it, and cutting my son's hair, and So let me know when you need a fix-up, because that's not too slick.
I'm not going to show it on camera because I made a few mistakes myself. I didn't even try a YouTube tutorial. I just went for the clippers and it didn't really work.
So you kind of thought you knew what you were doing, but
no.
Epic fail.
I'll come to you next time. You got all the sanitizations and everything here in the office. So
yeah, exactly. I'd like to think I know what I'm doing.
All right, on to the next thing. An interview I'm going to do later, maybe I'll drop it before after this video. Hedda Volmerans, big news. She signed as your first female athlete at FTK Africa. Talk to us more about her.
So very excited. It's like kind of history. I put that announcement out on Facebook, and then obviously the head office in Dubai sent out the press release. I think the timing's perfect, and with the success of Natasha Jonas and the company getting a very unlucky draw, in my opinion, against Terry Harper. I thought she won the world championship. And I just thought Women's Month in South Africa, Hedda's kind of cleaned up the division here in South Africa. The next step is for her now to go internationally. I'd like for her to have maybe another local fight and then obviously progress forward. But the time's right. She's at the prime of her career. Remember, women peak a lot different to men in terms of maturity and age and their prime. And I think Hedda's now starting to enter the prime of her career. And I thought the timing is perfect, given the fact that, MTK, the company's growing, and it's obviously the best boxing management company in the world right now. And, we're all over the world. And as you know, I head up Africa. So I'm looking at her as a start for the first female fighter to come onto the company books. But I'm looking to expand, obviously, female boxing. I'm going to say this again, and I've said it to you before. I don't think there is enough being done for women in South Africa and African boxing. And please God, hopefully we can make that change. I see that change happening next year. A lot of people have written this year off for boxing, but I still think there might be one or two shows. But in terms of Hedda moving towards a career internationally, I think it'll be next year.
So is it a bit premature to assume that she'll be fighting for any titles soon, anything like that?
Well, no, it's not premature, but I mean, as of now, we can't make any announcements. The announcement with her coming with the company's just happened. We're waiting for the international borders to open up. Remember, every country is like a boxing sanctioning body. Every country has their own rules and regulations with regards to the virus. So when there's kind of a universal understanding where we can fly and where we can go, and all these international borders opening up, and then obviously we can plot and see what the next step is for going forward internationally.
So with regards to MCK Africa, you've been busy. I mean, it's not just been lockdown.
I've been
Everyone
busy.
went into sort of panic mode, whereas I see that you think that you've been doing, at least being proactive. What have you been doing?
So yeah, I mean, I have been working. Like I said, it's not getting on airplanes and going to see and sign fighters, but it's basically been setting up Zoom meetings and obviously doing video calls to fighters. So there will be quite a few fighters joining my stable in the next few months, and potentially even next year, depending on how the situation goes with COVID. A few surprises as well. Obviously, I can't talk out of turn, but I'm very excited about the future. And again, I think there's going to be wonderful opportunities next year for boxing. I really, really do. I don't want to talk too much. I certainly don't want to, talk out of turn. But if you're smart and you've been following what we've been doing, you can see the gaps and you can see that there's going to be major opportunity, particularly for my fighters. I'm very excited about that. And again, it's just about putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Well, one of the fights we thought fell apart. Rowan Campbell at one stage was heading over to Germany to fight for the world title. Obviously, COVID-19 has maybe blessed South African supporters with the fact that Rowan Campbell versus Reino Liebenberg has been announced for some time in December, as per the Golden Gloves website. What is your thoughts now that you've landed it?
Well, I think it's a great fight. I think it's a great fight for both fighters. And I think Golden Gloves know that it's an exciting, mouth-watering fight that the South African boxing public wants. So, fulfill their needs, fulfill their wants, and this is going to happen. So I think it's a great fight for both guys. Obviously, I feel confident. There was a lot of banter between myself and the opposing camp, but it's not happened. It's not going to happen. So, it's going to happen if both guys are in the ring. So I'm just hoping that both guys, will be prepared. I know we will, and the opposing camp doesn't get cold feet and opt to go another route. But as far as I understand, the fight's happening, and I'm very excited about that. And I think South African boxing is very excited about that too.
I mean, it's exciting that it's announced, but you still really think there's chances of it not happening?
So, I do think it's going to happen, but you also got to understand, until there's a vaccine, and even look at the structures overseas, even with the bubbles, right? Is that fighters are, until there's a vaccine, I think there's a 50-50 shot of these fights happening. And why do I say that? Because fighters are having amazing training camps, and they go to press conferences or they go to pre-fight medicals and they test positive with being asymptomatic. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing a lot of fights being called off. Robert Garcia's tested positive again now for the second time. So I think what's going to happen is, until there's a vaccine, we're going to see a lot of these fights either being postponed or falling apart because of the situation with the virus. But going back to your question of, do I think it's going to happen? Yeah, I do think it's going to happen. I do.
And obviously, we've seen a successful model done by the ESPN and so forth. They've been
Top Rank, yeah.
Top Rank. They've been doing a really good job. Same thing here, no?
You know what? But again, it's not foolproof because guys are still testing positive.
Yeah.
But it's a very costly experience, and obviously to set the fight up, it's no child's play. I was told there was cost Top Rank about $25,000 per event. You got to feed and house the fighters and so forth. So it's very expensive, but it seems to be that is the protocol on how to do these shows effectively, albeit with no crowd. So I think it certainly could work. It does work, but it's not 100% safe in terms of people not testing positive.
We had firsthand sort of looking at that when we interviewed Jacob Stitch-Duran. I mean, that was him literally in the hotel. He couldn't move anywhere. He went outside. That was his restrictions. So is it the same for us, or is it more free?
Until we're in the situation, I don't know. I can't answer that question until we face with that situation. All I do know that it isn't 100% safe. So in terms of obviously not contracting the virus. Again, there's still so much unknown about Corona that we're sitting here and we're kind of still questioning things. When the gyms were allowed to open, well, are we allowed to do mid-work? Are we allowed to spar? Now that tournaments are allowed to go ahead, you would just assume that guys are allowed to hit mitts, they're allowed to spar. And again, you can't expect fighters to spar wearing a mask. So again, until we have a clear indication of how to proceed going forward, I think there's still going to be a lot of questioning and still a lot of things up in the air. But do I think the whole bubble system could work? Yeah, I do.
I want to go on to other MCK news. Lorenzo Glamini actually spoke to the press recently saying he wouldn't mind facing Gary Russell Jr. I wanted to see if you shared those sentiments.
Absolutely. You know, when you get a title shot of that magnitude, you can never turn it down. So inevitably what you want to do is create a situation where your fighter's in the best shape ever. And if the opportunity comes, you just can't turn a world title down, you know. So I don't think that's going to happen straight away. I think we're looking at a situation where there have been rumors for a long time now that Gary Russell's going to move up. But obviously, there are developments behind the scenes with Lorenzo. I can't talk too much about that now. But he's in a very strong position, obviously after the WBC convention online, virtual online stuff. He's moved up 2 places to number 2. So we're in a very, very strong position. And I don't be surprised if he fights for a world title in the next year.
Well, here's something interesting, right? So MCK made an announcement. They said that they signed Jojo Diaz, right? As they further their ventures into the American market, which is quite impressive.
Yes.
It brings Azinga Fuzile one step closer.
Absolutely, but you know, first things first. You know, Jojo has to defend against Rakimov, which isn't an easy fight for both fighters. And then we have to be nominated a fighter for the IBF Eliminator. So there's a lot of things that still have to play out. What it means for us, particularly if they fight, if Jojo Diaz does beat Rakimov and Azinga does win the Eliminator, which obviously I suspect we will, it creates the negotiation table to be a far easier place to sit around and make the fight happen. Again, boxing is full of twists and turns. You can't predict one thing and say another thing and do another thing. I think we're just going to have to wait and see how this all plays out.
So with regards to MCK and what you're doing, is there anything else on the menu?
Absolutely. You know, when I started my working relationship and I started working for the company of MTK, one of the things was that I would have free reign to deal with talent outside of Africa. So obviously Africa is my domain in terms of fighting talent to the company. But now there is an international fighter that I'm busy dealing with at the moment who's very interested in coming onto the company books and potentially even moving to South Africa and you know, me training as well. So I'm very excited about that. And you know, like I'm saying, you know, I'm just branching out as much as I can for the company. It's growing in leaps and bounds. And I have to say it again, we're the best management company in the world. We keep growing. We've just infiltrated now America. It's happening. And one of my focus points as well will not just be just in South Africa. Tariq Alali will be coming to South Africa. We had his work visa lined up, sorted, and then the pandemic hit us and he wasn't allowed to travel. So he's another fighter from North Africa that's going to be based potentially here in South Africa. But a lot of exciting stuff, and I'm really, really excited about the future, particularly for 2021.
A comment on, obviously it's got to do with Tyson Fury. Dillian White was scheduled to face him in February. There was a thing going on. Now he's lost the opportunity. Well, he's got a rematch, but he's lost the February opportunity after he got knocked up by Povetkin. Do you feel really bad for Dillian White?
Well, I don't know Dillian White, so I have no emotional connection to him. I mean, he got caught with a shot, and it's, you know, one of those harsh things. And I mean, like, it kind of sucks. But it does make the path clearer for Fury to fight Joshua, and I think that's the fight that everyone wants. You know, there's boxing and there's heavyweights. I sent that out on a tweet a few nights ago when Povetkin got the knockout win. I was just a crazy upset. But that's boxing. I mean, shit happens, and unfortunately for Dillian White, he could come back, but I don't think he's going to be chasing Fury down potentially anytime soon.
All right, and just lastly, do you have a message for anyone out there?
Yeah, just to the boxing fans, just keep following our stuff. I really appreciate the support and so forth. And a big shout out to you, 500,000 views last week.
Yeah.
And big shout out to you, Hayden. You're doing a lot for the community, the boxing community here in South Africa and in Africa and internationally too. And I think you need to take a bow. So big up to you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you.